And today we are here with Gary Gero, Chief Sustainability Officer for the County of Los Angeles. Thank you so much for being here.
Be here.
Well, we know that the LA County Climate Vulnerability Assessment Report was just released. Tell us, what was the purpose of this report?
Yeah, the idea of the report was to really understand at a community scale what are the likely changes that we're going to see from climate change and who's going to be impacted. And these kinds of assessments have been done before, but they've been done at a much bigger scale. These are down at the census tract level. We're looking at not only what are the changes we're going to see in that census tract, but who lives in that census tract, whether they have disabilities. There's lots of older adults, there are people in mobile homes, so that we could understand what kinds of policy or programs we need in order to address the changes that we're going to see.
Right, because the report definitely presents a sobering picture of life in Los Angeles County in the next 30 years with droughts, extreme heat, flooding, and rising sea levels. What communities are going to be most impacted by these climate changes?
Yeah, we're going to see changes all over the county, of course. So if you live in Lancaster, Palmdale, you're certainly going to see extreme heat. If you live in even in parts of Southeast LA, whether it's Southgate or Montebello, you're going to see both extreme heat and even potentially some impacts from inland flooding. You could see, of course, coastal flooding due to sea level rise in places like Long Beach and Marina del Rey. And it's just going to get a lot hotter, and we know that.
Right.
And it's going to get a lot hotter all over the place. So in the San Fernando Valley, in Reseda, in Santa Clarita. And we know that, for instance, in a place like Reseda, there's a large number of people whose first language isn't English, who we may have difficulty getting messaging out to. So knowing that helps us figure out the strategies to notify those people of those dangers.
Right. So we also know that lower income and communities of color, the elderly, are going to be most impacted by extreme climate change. What can we do now to help these communities?
Right. Well, the first thing is to just understand the impacts that are likely to come, and that's what a report like this is for. But then really the next step is action. We have to start taking action to address these impacts. And there are things that we as government can do. Of course, we can build out more parks and build tree canopy in communities that lack that tree canopy. You know, there are parts of Los Angeles, typically low-income communities of color, where we simply haven't put in the kind of investment that we need to in terms of street trees and other trees to cool a neighborhood.
Tell us what most surprised you after looking at all of the results of this very thorough report.
Yeah, I think we always understood that it is communities of color that suffer disproportionately from things like air pollution. We know that Black children have much higher rates of asthma than white children. So we expected to see that to some degree in this climate vulnerability assessment as well. But one of the things that I think was most surprising was that while Hispanics and Latinx population is about 50% of LA County, when we looked at the census tracts that we're going to see the most extreme heat and have the most vulnerability, Latinos and Hispanics made up about 2/3 of the population in those communities. And that kind of disparity really was eye-opening to us.
Right. But we also are very, we have hope because the county has developed one of the most far-reaching sustainability plans in the country. So can you share some of the highlights of that plan?
Yeah, and I also say that we have hope because it doesn't have to be this bad. This is a projection, and it's a projection, quite honestly, based on not doing anything or doing very little. And if we collectively take action, we know that it doesn't have to be this bad. But the sustainability plan, is comprehensive, as you say. It's very aggressive. There are some 159 actions, and over 1/3 of those actually help us with community resilience. So things like tree planting, things like cooler surfaces, things like taking out pavement where it isn't necessary. We have a lot of asphalt in this city in this county that doesn't serve a very good purpose, and it gathers a lot of heat. So if you can start to depave parts of our county, we can actually reduce the impacts of heat. And then we need to think about where we actually build housing. We know we need a lot more housing, but should we be building it in places that are subject to wildfire? Or should we be putting people at risk, knowingly at risk, because it's a severe high fire hazard zone? And so we need to be thinking about how do we prevent harm in the first place? And those are all things that are within our sustainability plan, as well as things like converting our county fleet to 100% zero emission vehicles and phasing out oil drilling, and also getting to 100% clean renewable energy to power our communities. So those are all things that we are actively pushing in order to reduce both to mitigate the impacts, but also help our communities become more resilient.
Yeah, well, it's good to know that the average citizen can do their part in improving climate change or scaling it back a bit. Is there a website where we can get more information to see what actionable steps we can take as an average citizen to help this situation?
Absolutely. If you just go to our website at lacounty.gov/sustainability, you'll have access to our sustainability plan, as well as to this climate vulnerability assessment and the mapping tool that I mentioned that will help you identify the impacts in your own community.
Well, thank you so much, Gary, for your time. We know there's a lot of work to be done, but we really appreciate everything you're doing, and we hope to talk to you soon.
Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate the opportunity to talk about this work.
Thank you.